covering SB 1440. And Jerri Lynn Ward, introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll get Joanna Scott to introduce herself, and then let's break down what this bill does.
Yes, thank you, Alex, for having me on. I'm an attorney here in Austin, Texas, and I got involved in this because a year ago I became so outraged about CPS taking those 400-some FLDS kids, and I decided to volunteer to help one of the dads fight CPS. And I entered a world that I didn't even know existed before that time. And I'm as horrified as you at these CPS courts and at the whole system. I've practiced law for 29 years, and I did civil trial in other areas, and they think that they don't have to follow the rules of due process in these courts and with regard to CPS. It's just horrifying.
Well, 34 states by 1930 had passed the eugenics race laws. And I'm just telling you this because, see, you were in the real court system, and then you entered the constitutional system, then you entered the parallel universe of the family court, the health department, racial hygiene, and this is the Max Kaiser, Kaiser Wilhelm, not Max Kaiser, the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. This is that whole system the Rockefellers funded for race hygiene, so that's why these courts don't operate with due process. But now they want to, I guess, remove the final link. So let's bring up Joanna Scott. Joanna, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am actually not an attorney. I am a parent advocate. I'm executive director for a 501c3 organization that I founded with my sister called Parent Guidance Center, and we exclusively advocate for these parents that are involved with the child protective system.
Boy, I bet you get flooded with the millions of kids they're snatching every year. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Jerri Lynn Ward. And then we'll go back to Joanna. Jerri, for about 5 minutes, break down what you've seen in the courts, what this new bill does. It's on the governor's desk, how we defeat it. Then we'll get Joanna's take on it.
Well, what happened is that CPS got slapped down pretty good in the Supreme Court case, in the Third Court of Appeals case, in the FLDS case, but also in the Gary Gates case. And I believe that what this law is an attempt to get around the Gary Gates case. Now, they claim that the reason they introduced this bill was to affect what the Fifth Circuit said in the Gary Gates case, but in my opinion, they're not doing that. What they're trying to do is a halfway job that gives more power to CPS, that does not give the full constitutional protections that the Fifth Circuit had in mind, and essentially just empowers CPS to get into people's houses, especially people like homeschoolers or like who keep their kids at home, to whom CPS has no access at the government schools, but also like the FLDS, who had that private school at the ranch. So what this is an attempt to get in there. They purport that it's like a search warrant, but they don't have the protections for the affidavits that would underlie this order in aid of investigation that they're trying to codify.
Absolutely. It's a fake search warrant, a fake order. They can also use it to steal people's children out of the school, the way I've read the bill. Then there's a whole other area of discussion of how this passed, how Kirk Watson tagged it on a bill that wasn't as bad. Kirk Watson, of course, a great fount of wickedness. I've known him of old as the former Austin mayor, snatching people's property.
And Johanna can speak to that because she's the one that detected the problem and immediately reacted. And
let's go back to Joanna then. Scott here. Tell us, so you ferreted this out. You detected the skullduggery. Tell us about it.
Yes. Originally it was Senate Bill 1064, which was just to access a child's medical or mental records during an investigation. We watched it. It didn't have any... It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was just kind of a normal thing. Yeah, they kind of do this anyway. But they also had to leave to get those records. They had good cause shown, and the parents could have a hearing. And it was fine. I mean, it had due process.
But the problem is they always fill out fake reports anyways and lie. And like you said, they're already ignoring the law. They're just trying to retroactively get rid of the Bill of Rights because people are pointing out they're not following it. But go ahead.
But what they did, the original Senate hearing, is they did a committee substitute, which was nothing like the original, and it's what we see today. It was completely different, and all the players, they already knew that they had to have known that the substitute was coming because they were already willing and able to testify about it right then and there. We weren't at the hearing on the Senate side because, like I said, we didn't know about the committee substitute. We caught the committee substitute when it went to the House side, and that's where the skullduggery or whatever you want to call it began. Because we did have testimony at the House hearing before Patrick Rose's subcommittee on Human Services, and our testimony has apparently disappeared. We are on the film as, showing, here's our cards being turned in, here's our written testimony. The hearing didn't happen that day. They didn't finish that hearing. They actually had a brand new hearing.
So regardless, he tagged this on without anybody knowing. It's now gone to the governor's desk. Are we getting anything out of Perry with the thousands of phone calls he's gotten and knowing it's going to be thrown out of court, but tens of thousands of kidnapped kids later?
We've heard crickets chirping so far.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. You have to remember this was something that certain people, including legislators, were told had to happen. The department was told. The department itself did not ask for this. The Department of Family Protective Services did not go, their administrative people, the commissioner go, oh, the Gary Gates decision is horrible. Oh, the FLDS should have never. They didn't go say, what can we do about this? This was a group, Tex Protects out of Dallas brought this bill.
Well, also, the way to go after Watson and people is they've had a lot of judges and people get in trouble for taking money from the foster parent lobbies and the child trafficking lobbies. It's what they are. They even have bounties. I've had a state senator from Georgia on where she listed how they say we need a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid. The family wants it. They're going to pay $400,000 for it through these adoption agencies. So if we can catch Watson or others, and we know this goes on, Judge Gene Muir and whoever, getting money from these groups, we need to go ahead and go to the grand jury and call for indictments because this is done all over the country. And I'm saying play hardball with these people. But let's talk about the bill. I keep digressing. Jerri Lynn Ward, I believe you were just speaking. So you're saying it looks like Watson's going not Kirk Watson. Looks like Governor Perry's going to sign this?
Well, we don't know. What I'm saying is that we don't. I know of no one, or no one's contacted me to say that they've heard anything with respect with what he's going to do with this bill, which is pretty amazing to me because the groups that have come out against this bill are essentially his core constituency. So I don't know what he's doing with respect to this. I mean, like Johanna said, this is a special interest bill. And it was.
Now, this is being pushed by the foster parent consortium.
Actually, interestingly enough, we've gotten word there's a bunch of foster parents groups that are actually against this bill.
Well, I mean, by that I meant the big adoption combine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, also Scott McCown, the former district judge who was the Robin Hood judge, he's probably one of the ones who wrote it. This was written by special interest groups who benefit from by feeding on the carcasses of destroyed families who wrote this bill. And no parent advocate was given any input into this bill. So it's really a disgusting situation. I've heard that the Permanent Judicial Commission on Children, Youth, and Families supports this bill, and that's a piece of work in itself. What that is a commission where judges who hear these cases sit down with CPS and sit down with special interest groups that benefit from the destruction of these families and make policy.
That's right. They benefit because there's federal bounties, federal money to grab these kids. That's why they put 68% of them on drugs instantly, because then it's a special needs child, and these groups get even more money. So this is going to the governor's desk, and the way I read it, then, you won't even be notified when they snatch your kid. I mean, they already do this a lot, and then tell them you get to see mommy if you tell us mommy touched you or hurt you.
Yeah, they usually have to have an emergency situation when they go to the school, which they can right now, and that's what we're trying to tell people. If there's really a kid out there that's black and blue and bleeding, you can still take them at that moment without a hearing because you need to. This does not take that right away from the department in those cases. What this is a fishing expedition. This is, I wonder what's going on in that house. Do those people have perhaps guns, I wonder?
Let me tell you what already happened in my office. I mean, did you hear about the big case with the lady in Hayes County?
Yes.
And literally, they called the kids in. They would send them into the counselor. She was wearing shorts, saw a bruise down her leg, and they brought in the police, and they told her, don't tell your parents, made her take her pants off to look for more bruises. There weren't. And then they were going to go try to force their way into her house. But the issue is they literally have bounties. They have quotas, and it's just so monstrous. What type of stuff have you seen, Jerri Lynn Ward, and then, of course, also Joanna Scott, as you've been fighting this in Texas? I don't think the general public, till they get hit by these people, realizes just how serious this is.
Well, what I've seen has been based on research and getting to know some of the attorneys who fight this every day. And as Johanna said, one of the big problems is they're going to use this to force their way into people's houses, especially homeschoolers. And a lawyer who practices in this area much more extensively than I do told me of an instance where CPS went into a homeschooler's house where they actually have kids do chores instead of just go to the mall and sit on the couch watching TV. The 8-year-old daughter was washing dishes. The way that the CPS wrote the investigative report was that an 8-year-old child was playing with steak knives unsupervised.